What's the most common kept freshwater fish in the world? You might think goldfish, and you'd be wrong. The winner here is Betta splendens, which most people just call beta when they see it in the pet store. But Betta splendens is just the tip of the iceberg. It's one of more than 75 species of betta. And today I thought we'd talk about some of those species, but maybe before that we jump back a little and talk about the entire suborder of Anabantoidei. How does Betta fit into Anabantoidei? Well, I'm Russell Carroll. Today we're talking about Anabantoidei and Betta. And this guy, he's a Papa Betta.
Oh, Papa Betta.
Anabantoidei is a suborder that we usually think of as labyrinth fish. That's how it's labeled. And that's because these fish have a labyrinth organ. The labyrinth organ allows the fish to breathe air, which is a great adaptivity that allows them to live in environments that are maybe less than optimal. There's over 140 fish in this suborder, and we usually think of the gourami. That's what we usually think of when we think of these fish. But there's actually, again, over 75 species of betta. And so betta is the largest number of fish in the suborder. Another fish that's pretty well documented in the suborder is the paradise fish. Now, the paradise fish may have been the first fish kept as a pet. And that's, again, because it can breathe air, which helps out a lot when maybe you're being kept in less than optimal conditions, like it probably was when it was first being a pet. Within Anabantoidei, there are three families. And I'm going to start here by just telling you, I'm not great with Latin. I'm going to kill these. Just please forgive me. But we'll go through the three families. The first is Anabantoidei, and that includes the climbing gourami. Now, it's not something we see in stores, so I'm going to go ahead and skip past it to the next one, which is Anabantoidei, which is the kissing gourami. Now, we do see those because they're pretty popular because of the fact that the males tend to engage in sparring activities that look like kissing, and so they've been popular, and you'll see them in aquariums as well. The last family is Anabantoidei. And this is a very large family. It includes most of the fish that we'll be talking about or be thinking about when we think about these labyrinth fish. It is broken up into three subfamilies of its own, the first of which is Anabantoidei, and that is the giant gourami. Now, those are really cool fish, but they're way too big for most aquariums. These are usually left best to a public aquarium, though you sometimes will find them in pet stores. Probably shouldn't pick them up unless you've got a really big space for it. The other subfamilies include Lucophalini. This includes very many common gourami that we keep at home. Some of the key genus in this subfamily include Trichopodes, which has the pearl gourami, very popular, very beautiful. The moonlight gourami, also very beautiful, and the blue gourami. There are a lot of varieties of blue gourami, including gold, opaline, and others. Those are all just different species that have been bred out, but they're not actually different species. It's all the same. Another key genus inside of this subfamily is Trichogaster. And that has the dwarf gourami. It's an absolute favorite of mine. It was the first fish that I bred, first gourami that I bred many years ago. We won't say how many just at the moment, but many years ago. And also the honey gourami, another favorite of mine. Less common, but also very interesting, is a third genus inside of this subfamily, the Sphaerichthyes. That includes the chocolate gourami. I'll come back to those in a bit. The third family or subfamily inside of Anabantoidei, so Fremidi, I told you I was going to kill him, is Macropodiceni. Now, many of my favorite oddball fish in the hobby are inside of this subfamily, including inside of Triopsis, which is a genus that includes the Pygmy, the sparkling, beautiful fish, sparkling gourami, and the croaking gourami, known for the little sounds it makes, kind of like a cricket if you are close enough to the aquarium. Macropodis is another genus in this group that has 9 species of paradise fish, including the black paradise fish, which is one of my absolute favorites, and of course, the original paradise fish. Other genus include Malpoluta and Pseudophromenius. I think that's more correct, which is a smaller paradise fish genus, including the Day's paradise fish, as well as the brown spike-tailed paradise fish, one of my absolute favorites to keep. If you haven't kept that one, you should try it out. Parasophomenus is the licorice gourami genus. And hallelujah, we're past all the hard to say ones. That is a great genus. It is very hard to keep, very acidic water, and also very much going extinct in the wild. So if they're your jam, please keep more of those. Finally, the last genus here is Betta, the one I can pronounce, though it's probably as mispronounced as all the others, and they're called Betta instead. Betta as a genus has, again, 75 species, over 75, which again makes it the biggest part of Anabantoidei. There are two key breeding behaviors that I think help to separate it out pretty well. 2/3 of the fish practice one of these behaviors and 1/3 practice the other. You can guess which is which. But bubble nest building is one way. And this breeding behavior has the male building a nest out of bubbles. He creates bubbles in his mouth. They're super sticky. He puts them together at the top of the tank. And then when the female lays eggs, he catches those eggs in his mouth and puts them in the nest. The other type of breeding is mouth brooding. Now, in this case, there's no bubble nest. The eggs just stay in the male's mouth and they eventually hatch and are let go. These fry are larger than the fry that you get out of a bubble nest. Bubble nest fry tend to be very small. They tend to predate on each other. And that is not true as much with the mouth brooding. You get a lot less of them and they are a lot larger and usually a bit easier to feed. I like easier. So most of them, again, of the Betta, do you think they are mouth brooding or bubble nest building? If you said mouth brooding, you are accurate. 2/3 of the 75 are mouth brooding. Now, there are a couple that do both, we'll note here, but about 1/3 are bubble nest builders. I was surprised when I first found this out. I've been in the hobby for over 40 years. I said I wouldn't say it, but I did. And I had no idea that there were mouth brooding Betta. That was super fascinating to me. Neither did I know that most Betta are mouth brooding. I was used to the Betta splendens in the stores and I had bred that, and that was obviously not mouth brooding. And I bred a lot of Gourami, but I had no idea that there were mouth brooding Betta. And so this was really exciting for me. And it's, I think, the tip of the iceberg of what makes these fish really quite interesting. There are some generalities that we can look at, and these are generalities. So some of it's going to be somewhat right, somewhat, well, okay. And we'll start with just water. The water that the mouth breeders come from tends to be a little more current filled. And that makes sense. That explains why they are mouth breeders instead of bubble nest builders, because the water would wash away the bubble nest. As well, it explains their bodies. Many of the mouth breeders have more streamlined bodies with less showy, flowy fins than you're used to with your Betta splendens. And that's by intent. They live in shallow, again, more active water most of the time for many of them. And so this leads to different adaptations. When I say shallow, I've read a lot of books and seen a lot of pictures where you can see large fish, large Betta of 4 or 5 inches living in 2 inches of water that's maybe a foot or 2 feet across, a little streams that are moving through. For all Betta, the water tends to be more acidic. However, hallelujah, they are fairly adaptable. And so this is what has made them easier to keep as pets. Though, again, most of the wild Betta, let's see here, all, 100%. I've never seen a wild Betta in a pet store ever in my many years in the hobby. So pretty uncommon, but you can get them online from responsible breeders. The Betta are broken into complexes because there's so many of them. This helps us group them together in ways that we can better understand them. For example, there's the Unimaculata complex, which combines a number of larger Bettas. These, again, are 4 to 5 inches. They include things like Macropodus, which is a super popular, hard to find, very expensive Betta at the moment. Hopefully we can breed more of them and find ways to share them. As well as the Picta complex. That's the polar opposite. It's super small. About 1.5 inches is how small the Betta Picta is. Aggression is another way that we could see these connected, though not many complexes actually use that as a identifier. But you're familiar with Betta splendens. It is the Siamese fighting fish. They are brutal killers of each other. And they also are not maybe representative of all Betta. There are Betta that are peaceful. Betta almagarta is a complex of fish that for the most part are peaceful. That's not necessarily what keeps them together. Chanoides is the other Betta in that group, and they are wonderful fish to keep. Many betta can be kept together in groups. I have a large group of Betta rubra that has many, many males in a 10-gallon tank. It's not particularly challenging with the right fish. And so we'll stop right there. We've talked about a lot of the different and interesting behaviors that betta have. I hope that you are starting to get intrigued. I love mouth brooding betta. They are my jam because they're a lot easier to keep and to breed, in my opinion, than their bubble nesting brothers. I think that's probably right. But I hope that you will find this interesting, and we will start talking about how to keep betta, how to keep specific species of betta and what they look like. And I just welcome you to the wonderful world of the genus of Betta.
Oh, Papa Betta.